my name is Madeline Pritchard, and I am the art teacher for Rutland High School, one of two. And I am here as the art teacher directing the Artist Talk Night, first night of the Rutland High School AP Drawing art show this year. The theme is Connected Evolution. We have 9 artists, and they all get the opportunity to speak on their experience of a year-long discovery of a sustained investigation of their choice. They're very passionate, driven students, talented. I'm lucky to work with them, and I'm very fortunate to share the hub space and the help of Bill Lucci and Lyle Jepson. We're able to use the beautiful hub, and very happy to see what the students have to share about their work.
Okay. Hello and welcome to all to the 2024 AP Drawing Student Art Show. Thank you all for coming, and we hope you enjoy the presentation of our bodies of work throughout the year. Before we begin with our first artist talk, on behalf of the entire AP class, I would like to say thank you to Ms. Pritchard. We would not have been here without you getting us to this point, and we cannot thank you enough for all that you have done for us and our whole class. We each have a rose for you. Good evening, and thank you all for being here. My name is Grace Margaret, and throughout this year in AP Drawing, I focused my sustained investigation on the human need for connection. Since humans are beings of connection, they require a feeling of connection to others and the world around them to thrive in this life. However, as we go through life and evolve through experiences, challenges, and changes, the way we are able to connect to others changes with us. Throughout this examination of human connection, I wish to know, how does the human need for connection evolve as humans evolve in various ways? Diving into the exploration of human connection, I chose to look into my own life using self-portraiture, self-reflection, and self-modeling in order to connect myself to humanity as a whole and assist in my effort to centralize human connection in an accessible way. And ultimately using myself as a vessel for humanity as a whole and using my own self-evolution to represent human change over time. While diving into my inquiry, I focused on extensive research into historical artists ranging from modern portraiture, classical realism, to early Art Nouveau. I found inspiration in artists like Frida Kahlo, who used self-portraiture to express experiences by utilizing negative space, and artist Hindi Wiley, who is a portrait artist who utilizes backgrounds to assist in bringing his portraits to life by creating a background which interacts with the foreground and overlapping patterns. I focused on the accurate portrayal of the human face as I tried to bring emphasis to the theme of human reliance and evolution. During this inquiry, I discovered many ways people find means of connection in all areas of life, from infancy to adulthood. However, despite having learned about these experiences and experimented with these different means of connection, I feel like this inquiry is not finished, nor do I feel that I have an answer to my original question, as I myself have not evolved in all the ways that I will, and neither has humanity as a whole. This being said, one thing I found for certain is that humans and all things need connection, and without it, it is likely that we would not be nearly as successful as we think we are. Each piece has a direct kind of mean of connection. So if anybody has any questions, that's it.
Which one was the most powerful for you to draw?
I think the middle one on the table, it's blue and gold. That one was probably my most influential piece. It's kind of about like the history of families, and I used kind of like an idea of pottery and welding it back together with gold to create kind of like how we connect to things that come before us and people that come before us, and kind of like bring beauty onto the things that come before, and instead of kind of like perfection, instead kind of like the change over time of things that already have been, and like that just because they're old, they don't lose meaning. almost become more meaningful. So that was my favorite. What about your baby piece? No. The baby piece was probably my most challenging piece because I didn't originally like the kind of the concept, but I kind of started with like how babies are similar to flowers, and I kind of researched like how in a lot of ways babies are like what are considered single mode communicators, so they only have like one way to communicate everything they need, which is like crying or like noises that aren't words. And flowers are very similar in that way. They only have one kind of way to communicate their needs, which is kind of centralized around like pheromones and how they get bugs to pollinate them. So it's kind of like a play on like life kind of starts as like a life and death kind of situation. Like if you can't communicate your needs, then your needs can't be met. And if your needs aren't met, then you can't thrive. So it's kind of like adding to like how much we need connection. Because if you don't have it, especially at like a young age, it could like become a detriment to you. So yes, thank you for it. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you all. Hi, my name is Kayla Stevens, and my sustained investigation question is how my childhood traditions, such as pinky promises, impact the adult navigation of truthfulness with their kids. When a child makes a pinky promise with an adult, they anticipate that they will follow through. Traditions are like moments that entail repetition, like Christmas, Thanksgiving, and even Super Bowl Sunday. Throughout my childhood, there were many traditions, like pinky promises, but those promises were always broken. When those promises are broken, a pattern of distrust is created. Throughout my life, I have acquired the negative side effects of broken trust, like self-esteem issues, self-imagery problems, mental health struggles, and difficulty forming a relationship. Throughout my artwork, I wanted to express negative feelings associated with broken promises through the subject matter. My artwork shows my childhood perspective on living a life with a broken mind created by distrust. These feelings include loneliness, sorrow, and disconnection. These emotions are shown in piece 2, 3, and 6. It has a big impact on my life and the struggle of determination to have a healthier mind. On the other hand, I have shown things that have saved my life. Piece 4. In this piece, I wanted to show different emotions like pride, happiness, and love. When playing this sport, it distracts me from the thoughts in a broken mind, and it calms my thoughts. My battle with a broken mind caused by distrust has made me the most independent and determined individual. It was hard for me to show these emotions in my artwork because how do you show such strong emotions? And I don't think I'll ever find the answer to that question. Thank you. Then any questions you guys have?
What's the symbolic meaning behind the swing set?
So the swing set showed during my life, I didn't have very many friends. I wasn't very into the public scene, so when I would go to like the playground or anything like that, I wouldn't necessarily always be by myself. So it really it has a very lonesome meaning to it, and it describes really how my childhood was lonely.
Which one was the hardest to paint, meaning, who took the most toll?
That's hard because they're all definitely very difficult, idea-wise, coming up with ideas. I honestly think my pinky promise statement piece was the hardest to come up with. Trying to figure out how to project my question and how to really show people that this is what it's about.
Which one's your favorite?
I probably have to say my fly high piece. It's my kite piece down in the bottom. That one is definitely my favorite. It's very realistic. And it took me a lot of hard work, time to get the definition and all the different angles of the kites and the fence. And in that painting, it's a perspective of a childhood looking up at kites flying in the sky. And I did that a lot as a kid. I had my own my own kite. For this piece, I also made my own kite. It's definitely one of my favorites.
Could the kites also possibly be part of your growth and flying high and everything you've accomplished in a positive way?
Yeah, and that's really what that piece was more towards, was the growing and how a kite gets higher in the sky, it flies higher. So I think definitely I've been growing since a kid. My life has definitely blossomed. Thank you guys.
Hello, everybody. My name's Emily Sunderland. This year, my sustained investigation is what does my grief look like? So these crows that I painted are kind of the carriers of my investigation. They show how I mourn not only people close to me that I've lost, but also loss of like friendships and ended relationships. It's not always necessarily death. It was a really interesting process to create these visuals of emotions, something that's not really tangible without using words, and especially when it's this personal. So there was a lot of self-reflecting and self-examination because I have to analyze how I felt and kind of like cross-reference it with research. And then I come up with a composition that I felt accurately represented the emotions I was trying to convey. Some processes were longer than others. Some paintings I was able to finish in a week, and others took months. But ultimately, I think they all came together to give a good representation, a good visual representation of my grieving process. This investigation taught me a lot about myself, things I didn't know I could learn, things I didn't know there were to learn. This investigation really made me face a side of my emotions I never thought I'd have to. And ultimately, I think I'm a better person for it. If anybody has any questions about any specific pieces or anything in general, now's the time.
Yeah.
So are those ravens or crows? And what motivated you to draw ravens to show your grief?
So yes, these are crows.
Okay.
When I was a kid, we had a bunch of crows around our house, and I lost a bunch of people during that time. So it kind of just connected them in my mind, and that's always been a thing for me. Yes, Grace.
It's like an ink blot test kind of one. What kind of was like the lead up and like the background?
So this one is the one she's talking about. So this is what's called a Rorschach test. It's like those ink blot tests where you look at them and it looks like 1,800 things, and you're supposed to figure out what it means, and it means something. So these were tests that were made to kind of help you understand the way you see the world. It's kind of like almost like a personality test. And so I chose to do this because for me it kind of represents like almost like a loss of an identity or sense of self, and kind of turning to these kinds of things that may not be super valid to kind of understand what's going on and trying to figure out kind of who you are as a person dealing with these kinds of emotions. Margot.
Which piece do you feel the most connected to, or like, I guess, your favorite?
I would say my favorite is that one over there with the two crows on the fence. It was, I think this one was my favorite to create, but this one was my favorite that it turned out to be. even just the process was making it was a ton of fun, and I did struggle, as some of you know. But I think this one kind of most accurately kind of represents how I felt in that time and what it was representing. And that's Rachel.
I noticed like you talking about time a lot and time management, and I wonder if you'd like to speak on that as someone who's maybe going into art in the future and what that means to you.
As far as time management skills go, definitely one of the things I struggled with. As I said, some of these pieces took me months. And I think it's really kind of given me a better understanding of how much time I should be spending on things and when to let things go.
So which piece was the quickest and which one took you the longest?
Oh boy. Stop laughing at me. So I think either this one or this big one over here took the longest. Obviously they're, the biggest and some of the most intricate. I think I put the most detail work into this one, but I spent a lot of time in the background of that one. I think this one was the quickest, just because it's got a lot of empty space. But even though it took me the shortest amount of time, I think it still came out great, and I'm very happy with it.
Was your Rorschach supposed to come out like a bird?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, it is meant to look somewhat like a bird. I did have somebody tell me it looked like a dog, and somebody else told me it looked like a camel, so I guess I got the point of it across.
So in this process, you had to do some investigating about crows. Can you share with the group what you learned about crows that was intriguing, and you definitely have a connection with crows? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, so crows are my favorite bird. Why would you think that? So crows are very, very intelligent animals. There's actually only 4 species of animals on the earth that have sophisticated and high enough levels of thinking to create and use tools for specific purposes, and crows are one of them. The other 3 are humans, orangutans, and chimpanzees. So just to give you an idea. But yes, I did a lot of research on crows and birds. They actually hold funerals for other crows that have died that they know. They all gather around, and it's very sad. I watched videos. Yeah, they are very smart. They're very emotional. They're very intelligent. They are very connected to each other. I know you could never guess that, because the flock of them is called murder, but they are very connected to one another, which is why it was perfect that I could use these to show something like connection and loss.
The one with the heart in it, I'm assuming that's the heart. There's a lot of movement in that, even though the crow is, the vegetation is adding movement to it. Is it its heart, or is it what does the red part represent in the?
So this piece is anger. These two kind of go together. And so it's kind of like anger not only at whatever happened or that you lost something, but also kind of anger at yourself and that you're so upset over something like this. And so this one is the crow ripped its heart out. Really happy things I know. And so this is the crow's heart. They're a diptych, the 2 pieces go together. But yeah, and so the plant in the background is actually aloe vera. You don't just put it on sunburns, people. And so in flower language, they do grow flowers. It kind of represents sorrow and affliction. And so it kind of just goes with the kind of the whole feeling of being upset with yourself and the affliction. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Margot Thompson, and my body of work is themed around the question, how do the hardships faced by women alter my perception of femininity? Key areas of my work include expression of stereotypes, societal pressure, self-identification, and self-conflict. Breaking boundaries that are defined by men is my favorite hobby. The more innovation curated by women, the better. However, progressive impact comes with successes and failures. And that is what I like to celebrate. Femininity goes beyond mere rules or guidelines. It evolves through the lived experiences of women, shaped by daily battles and triumphs. My sustained investigation explores how the struggles of women reshape my understanding of femininity. I visually explore this through contrasting colors to emphasize texture and to demonstrate the hardships left within my femininity. My process has explored what is perceived as traditionally feminine, and I use color, space, and value to showcase the complexity of being a woman, and how we can be consumed and overtaken by the ideals of being a proper woman. Curating my portfolio has been, to say the least, challenging. I struggled to connect with a concept that I could and would have to spend months expanding upon. I would describe my journey as chaotic evolution, as my research and ideas have not always been as organized as Ms. Pritchard would have hoped, but I persevered and grew alongside my body of work. Awkward page flip. My foundation in science and the technology world has been a huge guiding force throughout this year. I've used countless editing apps and filters to alter my reference images and fit whatever wacky idea popped into my head. Embracing the process was truly hard for me, as instant gratification was not an option. My friends and classmates truly inspired me to continue on and trust the process, even if it meant I would leave a big orange chalk stain on the wall, or leave the art room with my hands stained green. Not only am I proud of my growth within this body of work, but I am proud of myself for investigating personal topics like my never-ending battle with chronic skin condition, mental disorders, and how embracing my passion for the sciences and robotics has led to backlash and doubt of my abilities. My biggest takeaway from this process is taking time to step back and reflect or reevaluate. It is vital to progression and success. A pause is not stunting growth, but rather laying a strong foundation to continue on. The message is clear within my work, as halfway through this year, I changed my guiding question and began to fully embrace the use of women as my subject matter. Through this experience, I've realized that not everything is static or set in stone, but dynamic and ever-evolving. My body of work and my process is heavily connected, and my journey is truly a display of connected evolution. Thank you.
Questions?
Yes, Kayla.
What's the background on the old lady?
So she's referencing this monochromatic portrait over here. She is actually a real-life person. Her name is Rita Levi Montalcini. She is an Italian scientist, and I really wanted to capture how, even though aging is not perceived as beautiful, it truly can be beautiful. So I captured her in this light. She was a pioneer in the science world. Like I said, I have a huge foundation in that, so I wanted to kind of embrace that side of me through painting a portrait of a scientist that, you know, has had an influence on me, and show that she truly is beautiful, no matter where she is in her life or age or wherever she's from. She truly is beautiful inside and out, so I wanted to depict that. Yeah.
Your largest piece, the one in the middle, what kind of can you explain some of like the symbolism behind it, or kind of like your challenges and successes, what you were pleased with, and like from like the start, and what you had to kind of like work around a little bit?
So she's talking about this big one. I think you can all see it. It's a little in your face with the colors. It is demonstrating societal pressures and the effect that has on women as a whole. She is a faceless and hairless figure to demonstrate, again, women as a whole and not just one individual person. So, society has some standards for women, and so she's kind of feeling that pressure and melting away as it slowly eats away at her. Some challenges I had while making this piece was, again, like I said, I'm not very organized, specifically throughout my research process, my art. That was a huge stone I had to overcome, and throughout my pieces, I learned to actually organize and use my sketchbook to help me through that process. So I had to take a pause midway through and figure out what direction I wanted to go with it. I knew I wanted to do this figure in this pose, but after doing her, I didn't really know if I wanted to add drips or if I wanted to do something else. That this is what I had envisioned, but the placement of it was something I had to research and get reference images for. So that was another big thing that I had to overcome. Yeah.
Just a question about the two-headed person down.
Yes.
Well,
Do you want me to explain it?
All
right.
Some excellent.
So
They're here. Pull them up.
they are here. So some of my, this was actually my first piece in my portfolio, these conjoined twins. And I asked my friends to send me photos of themselves. They're identical twins, they're over there, you'll see them later. And I photoshopped them together to curate this kind of composition. And the story behind that is that a lot of the time we feel that we have to compare ourselves to other women, and it's kind of hard to do that and also be unique and show your own expression and be yourself, because specifically with these two, they're connected, so they can't really be their own person. So kind of figuring out how can you show yourself in a different light, even if you are connected to someone or so close, and also being compared to your siblings. I know for me specifically, I have an older sibling, and all the time it's a constant battle of us fighting for the glory moment or the shining spotlight. So that competition also is kind of a huge highlight in that. They have a heart necklace that's kind of like a locket, and it's pieced together and it's tugging at their necks to kind of show that struggle also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What's your favorite piece?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm gonna have to say my Lady Scientist is my favorite piece. I think I worked on her the longest, and as you can tell, I really like bright colors. I'm a pretty colorful person, and using graphite and chalk in this monochromatic way was kind of tough for me, working on a grayscale. So it was kind of a first. I've never done a portrait in graphite, and so I built some skills along the way, but I also I think it really came out very nice, and I'm very proud of it.
How about the bottom, sun and darkness?
Oh,
Or
yes.
fire and darkness?
So I was inspired by the formation of obsidian for this lady down here, and how it takes a very intense process of extreme heat to form such a beautiful stone, which is obsidian. And this one really demonstrates how you really have to trust the process, and how you may be going through something really, really tough, but you can come out the other side with new things that you've learned about yourself. So this piece specifically is really showing that process of finding yourself and going through a hard process and coming out the other side. All right, thank you. So I paper.
I hope you all had a good little vacation with the show so far. My name is William Sabatassa, and throughout this academic year, I focused on the guiding question to create this body of work. How does the rawness of humanity affect connection? My understanding of the rawness of humanity came from a mental process of alchemy, in which someone transforms his or her inner life from undesirable lead to desirable gold. My artwork mainly focuses on the albedo stage in the alchemy process, in which past conscious contents are illuminated into consciousness, which is an insight into shadow projections the soul initiated. From this, humanity to me is the emotion we feel towards someone. For example, humans don't love the guts and gore. Instead, we love the energy each person releases. Our energy allows us to create connections with people around us by liberating their essence from personality. Through my art, this is represented by the repetition of intertwining lines in the form of nature or human qualities, such as veins, hair, or tree branches, showing the internal connection we have to build within ourselves before we are ready for an external connection. In my work, I also use similar color, texture, media, and liminal space to connect each piece, while leaving each subject matter of the piece to stand for its own individuality. In all these pieces, I use the power of human emotion as it powers us through our whole life. The emotion I put into these paintings show anger, sadness, hope, and the joy we share in the gift of life. Creating these pieces was a year-long process I hope to continue, as this body of work helped me realize I had made my life from past negativity into one I wanted to live. These pieces reflected my reality and rawness of life, facing those imperfect parts of myself I would rather kept buried under my facade of emotion. Removing the facade, I grew within, allowing me to connect with others by understanding my own humanity. Thank you so much to everyone who helped me and guided me throughout this process. I wouldn't have done this without my amazing art teacher, Ms. Pritchard. And I'm happy to take this opportunity to answer any questions about my art.
So can you explain to us that little green piece with the holes up there?
So yeah, this piece was a big trial and error. I was painting this one beginning of the year, and I hated it so much. So I went in my basement and decided to paint it, and I got really frustrated, and I ended up punching 2 holes into it, and ended up turning into an abstract piece of nature. You know, you have so many flowers, so many trees, so many branches that are also connected. And, you know, my original product was supposed to be about not having an emotional connection, being torn from it, not having it. But this one is actually kind of the opposite, you know. So I put my emotion into it, you know, was it accidentally? Yeah. But it ended up coming out like it. Yeah.
Can you tell about this one right here?
Belgium. So this one is really a big representation of the albedo stage in the alchemy process, as we are hiding our body and hiding, you know, the main way we think, you know, the main way we process, the main way we live, and just ignoring it and accepting who we are in the past, and turning the darkness into light. So a lot of my pieces show a lot of white backgrounds to really show the transformation into glucose is really showing lightness. And I, you know, will put gold accents to really show like changing the lead into gold and stuff like that. Switch it.
So you talk about the albedo process and I'm still confused. Can you keep talking about it?
It's off of my head right now, but it's really just a big stage of life where you, you have it written down a little bit. It's just really about the transformation of like kind of life and just having the realization of self-acceptance and, you know, and just loving each part of yourself, and it's broken up into many different stages about, you know, how you can better your life and better yourself to, you know, live life as best as you can. I mean, yeah, I mean, alchemy is kind of just like, you know, the basis of turning that into gold, but it's also can be a mental process too. Yeah.
Can you explain the organs?
Oh yeah. This was roughly I think like my second or third piece. This piece I just really wanted to show off what we all are. This is down to like, in the end, this is who we are, this is what we are. And I just wanted to show it in more of a physical form. This one was more of a spiritual form. And showing, each organ being hung, I just really wanted to, give emphasis of just grounding. Like, at the end of the day, I'm just lungs, veins, skin, and just organs. Yeah. So I showed a bunch of veins connecting to show more internal connection.
Which one's your favorite?
I would say it's definitely a tie between these two. I'll talk about this one a little bit. I used a reference photo from Sofia Coppola's film adaptation of The Virgin Suicides, which is such a bittersweet, tragic story, about connection of 5 girls. In this photo, there's only 4. These girls have a strong, powerful connection with each other, and it just really represents the negative side of it. As much as they love each other, it ends tragically in suicide, and that related to me, that led to me my healing journey. I just wanted to put it into my work and see something represented, and to know that as I'm painting that I was here painting that, not someone else painting that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah Martin, and my sustained investigation, or question I chose to attempt to answer, is how do we escape the fabrics of time? Since I felt conscious of time, I felt its weight on my shoulders. The clock ticks in the shadows of everyday life, relentlessly pulling me to its rhythm. I explore time by reflecting on the emotions I feel in relation to time. I make my art about emotions I feel very personally, but also emotions other people will relate to or can interpret for themselves. The pressure to be in the right place at the right time is a pressure felt by all people who are conscious of the passage of time. I wanted to explore vices and habits people use to try to escape the stress caused by this pressure. While exploring time, I used watercolored pencil and acrylic paint to show the intricacies of time using layers and details with these mediums. These were also good to bring the viewer to the setting of my piece. I feel that the vibrancy of the watercolor makes up for my gravitation to dark, eerie colors. I did not intend to use the same color scheme, but these are just the colors I tend to pick out in everything, and it showed in my art. I don't think much about the art making process when making my art, as I typically stick well with my ideas and I feel strongly about them. I often have to revise and remap pieces, but I enjoy that process and the being immersed in my art and feeling emotions appear on the paper. I can't be caught in the art room without my noise-canceling headphones to really be present. I do like to literally feel my art. My hands and phone are often dirty from physically making the art with my hands. I also use chalk in my pieces to show blurriness to emphasize that socially time isn't something that is blatantly talked about, but rather something that sits in the background of life or in people's subconscious like a mind fog. The paint was a bit of a curveball for this piece. And the canvas. This is probably my most meaningful piece and my most recent due to the process and meaning of the piece. During this piece, I started to feel the things depicted in my art much more strongly. I started to see a change in my art making process and feelings while making art, which scared me, and I struggled a lot to finish this piece, feeling stuck exactly as it depicts. But when I originally planned this piece, I was not prepared to feel it this deeply. The wear and tear in the web shows the resistance I showed to face this process fully, which was a long fight. In the end, the results showed a deeper level to myself than I've seen in my art before, hopefully one that reaches deep into others as well. And then I wanted to talk about my pieces because they're a little bit difficult to understand, like at a first glance. So for my piece down here, the hand tree one, I wanted to focus on deep-rooted habits that people often revert back to and showing like values and personal growth. And then I wanted to focus on the consciousness of time and stress in this piece, which was my first piece that I made with my SI question picked out. This piece was meant to be chaotic and shows the different ways time hides in everyday life and kind of that it's inescapable. This focuses on escaping the bounds of time to a time prior of being conscious of it and doing self-sabotaging habits, and that's talking about the slower piece. And then to focus on self-sabotage, I made the piece on the top right, well, my right. And this focuses on self-sabotage and feelings of worry when choosing between facing your flaws and not reaching your fullest potential if you don't. I wanted to make the snake and the woman kind of connected, showing that it's all kind of the same being and that some of the problems that you may face may be problems within yourself when you realize. So yeah, I'll take more questions about my pieces if you have any other questions now. Grace.
I know that you talked about which piece kind of is most meaningful to you, but is the piece that was most meaningful to you, is that also the piece that it was your favorite to create, or was there a different one that was your favorite to create?
I would definitely say this was not my favorite to create just because it was a really rough process to make. I would say my favorite to create, probably the smoker piece. It's all watercolor colored pencil, so I got to really just kind of go ham, like scraping away the paper, making all the layers of colors.
Can you talk a little bit about the one on the bottom?
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, this piece wasn't really intended to be my question, but I feel like it kind of fits just kind of with the people trying to escape from the volcanoes. When I first made the piece, it was kind of more about like anger, but it was before I picked my question and started the investigation.
How about this piece right up there? Can you
This
give us a
one?
little, yeah, that one.
This one is the one kind of just being chaotic. This is just kind of how I feel about time, like feeling the skulls kind of represent like end of time, you know, like the end of life. But I also wanted to put things that represent the passage of time and direction. I put a compass on the top and I put a snail kind of tying everything together. And then the candle melting also shows the passage of time and things kind of melting away.
So, have you touched on like your planning process at all, or what it means to like build an art piece and planning for yourself? I know you sort of been like discovering that journey. Do you want to speak to your process and how you create and what that's like?
I don't really usually have much of a plan when I make my pieces. I kind of make art because I just enjoy making art and I feel the art that I make. I find it difficult to make art about things I don't really care about. So I'd say my planning kind of is just how I feel about my art and how I would represent feelings on paper.
Since it was about time, did your concept of time shift at all as you went along through this process?
A little bit, yeah. Time's always been kind of something I struggle with, like time management. So that kind of showed in my art, but I would say maybe things progressed more than they changed. Just kind of got a little bit deeper and complicated.
What's the meaning behind the spider web piece?
This piece is about kind of feeling vulnerable and feeling stuck, like a spider might catch its prey. And then there's kind of somewhere in it to show like resistance to trying like to escape that, even though you can't really always escape that feeling in life, which I've definitely felt this year being my senior year. Okay, I guess we'll move on to the next person.
Hi, my name is Michelle Lins. My sustained investigation is on the topic of evolution of stress within our lives as we age. Through this process, I learned about my stresses through identifying and acknowledging the stresses that I had faced growing up and the stresses that I faced during this year, which was my senior year of high school, a time of many stresses. Through my pieces, I did this by visually representing my internal responses to them. In some pieces, I used brighter colors, while in others, I used darker colors, and in some pieces, I used both. The juxtaposition of light and dark shows viewers that although they are experiencing stress, there still remains light within their lives. I also use media such as oil pastels to help depict the textures similar to crayons that are often used within our childhood. Furthermore, as I continued my pieces, I was continuously revising a storyline. My pieces first began with representations of childhood, then stresses that continuously arrive within human lives as we age, leading up to the point of adulthood that is towards the end of my pieces. This was also done intentionally, as I also did reach the adult age of 18 by the end of finishing these pieces. Beyond identifying my stresses through my pieces, I also found ways to combat my stresses in a healthy way. In my pieces, I established the message that stress is normal. To emphasize this, I practiced the recurring subject matter of a girl representing self for subject matter depicting stress that I had faced within my life. Through researching stress by talking to family members and friends around me, I realized that everyone is going through stress. Stress will always exist within our lives even as we age, but with our experience and the support that we ourselves can establish, that stress itself can be diminished and feel less stressful to us. It is important that we continue pushing through life despite challenges that come our way instead of hiding away from them. By the end of my pieces, the pieces represent and depict a realization that we as individuals are not alone with our stress. Thank you. Any questions?
That piece on the bottom really touched my heart. Could you explain it?
This one?
Yes.
So, behind the background is all of the colleges I applied to, and I kind of just blurred that out, and I have like around 20 colleges I applied to, and like the requirements for each of the essays, and so everything's like blended and blurry in the background, and in the middle it's like me, and it's like me struggling this year to grasp with applying to colleges.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about the piece with the brain and the scissors and the eye? The score that has the blue on the background.
So this one wasn't originally supposed to be a part of my pieces, but I ended up adding it in at the end. And I think it really just showed human connection to stress. And a lot of the stress that we experience in our lives is things that we visualize. And so the scissors are kind of cutting away the nerves to the eyeballs, and that I feel like that kind of takes away some of the stress that we see within our lives.
For your painting up there with the stuffed animals, it's like really cool and like really detailed. How would you get like it to like fuzzy, like,
So I ended up using reference pictures for that one, but while I was doing it, I noticed that it was easier to like almost tap the acrylic paint. And so as I was doing it, I noticed that it blended better, and it just created that like blurry, but also made it seem more real.
What's the concept for the girl on the television?
So this was my first piece, and it's kind of what made me dive into my sustained investigation. So the girl is a younger version of me, and she's almost in this dream-like reality where like she's not experiencing any stress, but she's looking into a future where she's like grown up and she's looking into the stress. She's like watching TV, but yet she doesn't realize that it's her future self.
Where'd you get the reference photo for the face in the TV?
So the younger girl is actually me, and in that picture is Miss Bridget's face against the printer.
Thank you.
You're the star.
Which one was your favorite to create?
I think this one was definitely my favorite. It was my first time using oil pastels, and I really liked how they blended and how bright the colors were. And I feel like this was just my favorite piece because before even thinking about what my sustained investigation was going to be, I knew I wanted to do this piece.
Which piece caused you the most stress?
I think this one was because it's a self-portrait of myself, and I'm definitely not used to using self-portraits of myself. And it was only with 2 shades, so I used different shades of blue and different shades of yellow because they were contrasting. But also, like, the posture is me shielding away from myself, because when I face stress, I typically shield myself away from them. Okay, thank you.
My sustained investigation is what people believe in myths. I did a lot of research on each and every one of these pieces based on the myths, how it was told, the culture, and just kind of how it was passed down from generation to generation. And I kind of went through, and I picked what I thought would be the most, like, I guess, believable part, and I had made portraits for every single one of them. Through this process, I started to realize that myths are all around us, and everything that we really believe in all came from a myth at some point in time and evolved into what we believe in now. They aren't real, which is kind of what makes them so interesting to people, regardless of if they are fantasy like the ones I portrayed, or if they are rumors that we heard around from somewhere. As I got closer to my final pieces, it started to get a lot more personal to me. I think really focusing on the ones that I believed in, or the ones that I have resorted to and I had like a hard time, really helped me make that piece a lot stronger. Yeah.
So could you tell us what myth each one of them are? Some of them feel familiar, but I definitely don't know about a lot of them.
So, the green one, that's the Valkyrie, the Dryad, Vampire, that's the Red String of Fate. We have Banshee, Bloody Mary, the Fairy, and the Mermaid.
I have a personal connection with Bloody Mary. I remember in elementary school writing it all over like the brick walls outside. Do you have any like personal, I mean, like freaked me out, but do you have any personal connection to any of like these?
I have a personal connection with the Bloody Mary thing as well, because I used to always have friends that knew that I was really gullible. So they would try to freak me out, saying that they were going to go into the bathroom and like summon Bloody Mary in my house, and she's going to get me. So, yeah. Yeah.
Can you talk about the Strings of Fate, because that was your last piece. Can you talk a little bit more about it and why you chose that subject matter?
So, Red String of Fate is like a red string that connects two people together, even if they're at a great distance. And for the subject matter, I chose to do it in graphite, and then use colored pencil to make the two bears and the red string really stand out. And this is with my very long distance best friend, who we actually took that picture together, and the two bears are something that we just bought as like a joke. So I thought it was really funny to add them in. Yeah.
Which was your favorite?
My favorite's either the red string or the Bloody Mary one. Yeah.
Through your process, I'm assuming you researched a lot of these myths. What was like something that you saw through your research that was, I guess, connecting like all of these different myths?
I guess it's just kind of that they were, I mean, at least they were very popular and I've heard of them before from other people or just like online. And that was kind of why I chose to do these certain ones. And I did a lot of research on like everything connecting them. Okay, that's
Hi, my name is Raina, and my sustained investigation was how can humans' coexistence with nature benefit the world. During this process, I learned and explored the symbiotic relationship between humans and nature. It helped me realize even more that all living things develop patterns and experience change. Trees are never the same size or color, rivers and streams can flow straight, but they can also turn. This is also the same for humans, our identities, emotions, and how we navigate life itself. Through my pieces, I did this by using composition and use of movement, shapes, and color to represent hidden symbolic meanings. In some pieces, I used lots of swirls, spirals, and splatters of colors to represent feelings of various emotions. Other times, I used very basic shapes such as circles and triangles for my pieces to represent consistency and patterns. For example, with this piece right here, I used up all the negative space and did dot painting. It took me 3 hours. Every circle was a different size and color to depict how often the circle of life happens in the background in various ways. I even practiced with nature-found media to show visual textures and the beauty in veggie, fruit products, and garden soil. My pieces in the very beginning were very personal and my experience connected to the earth, such as home composting, gardening, and baby bunnies. As I continued my work, my focus was still very personal, but broadened to connect all of humanity's experiences. How those experiences relate to nature, such as emotions and hormones released when in nature, our identities and interaction in society. I feel truly alive and connected when I experience the textures of the earth while walking barefoot in my yard, with cool water on my skin as I swim in our creek, the explosion of sunshine in my mouth when I taste wild black raspberries or sipping tea that I made from the mint and chamomile we grow in our garden. By the end of my process and journey with my pieces, I fully realized the truth of what Henry David Thoreau once said: heaven is under our feet as well as over our heads, and I hope to display that understanding in my pieces to the world and people around me. Any questions?
Explain the process of the food that you use for like the real stuff, like the jams and stuff.
Okay, so we have lots of black raspberry bushes at my house, and so recently I made my own jam. So with this piece, I actually did. This is supposed to be black raspberries. It doesn't look like black raspberries. My bad. But these are supposed to be jam jars that have black raspberry, and it is actually black raspberry jam. And then this piece, which is actually one of my favorite pieces, it's all fruit products and veggie products. So there's blueberries that I crush, there's turmeric, there's, carrots, kale, literally like anything that you can grow in your garden. That's the only thing that I used for them, and they came out better than I expected actually with the colors. So that's kind of what I did for those pieces. I actually wanted to use natural materials. Any other questions?
Can you tell about this one, Mark?
Which one?
Go. The one that's right here.
This one?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the Fibonacci sequence, and it's oftentimes found, it's naturally found in nature. And the concept is that each part is a part of a whole. So it's actually like a mathematical thing, but that's also how we are as humans. Like as we start from a baby to when we die, it's each part of our life, each stage is building on to our life and what our life consists of. So that's what I did for that piece. This
I want to hear your expression of the sunflower and what is under the ground. I would love to know. I think I know, but
Okay, so, yeah, so this piece is about biodiversity. And Emily Sunderland actually gave me an idea about some of this, but, so each flower is, it has a different amount of time to bloom. And so, below them is fetuses or babies in stages. So like the first flower takes, I think it's like 3 to 4 weeks. So that's what a fetus looks like in those time periods. The second one takes a lot longer, and that's what it looks like during that time period. And the last one takes almost like fully staged, so that's what it looks like there. So it's kind of the representation that we are just like flowers in some ways. We are just as much like nature, and it's not external. We're part of nature, and kind of biodiversity. And like nature needs biodiversity, but we also need biodiversity. We all look different. We all have different cultures. We need in different colors, sizes, shapes, and so is everything else in nature. Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your process and how you came up with all these different ideas?
I can try. So I did, not to sound cocky, I guess, but I'm a very organized person, so I like to plan things out beforehand. So I have a lot of rough sketches in my notebook, but I also did a lot of research in my pieces, and not to be cliche, but I tried coming up with my own concepts, and I practiced a lot with materials. I used a lot of different varying things. I don't know how to describe it really. I just practiced a lot in my notebook, and then sometimes some pieces took me a really long time. I think it took me like a week just to do the fading of the background here. Yeah.
Is there a connection to all these pieces of what you want to go on and do?
Yes. My dream major is environmental design, but I'm going to UVM for agroecology and landscape design. So I want to do something with the environment and making a positive impact on the world.
Can you tell more about this one too?
This one?
Yeah.
So this is actually a brain. I don't know, it's kind of hard to see, but so the idea is that when I took psychology, there's actual evidence that when you're in nature, you actually release endorphins, or your chemical imbalances in your brain actually shifts, and so it makes you happier, and stress gets released. So my concept of that is just like a tree. The top of a tree looks like a brain almost. And so it's beneficial to go out in nature because it actually helps our brain and it makes us happier. And it's good for you. It's really good for you. And then I did spirals and splatter paints to kind of represent the emotions and different things that evolve when you're out in nature. Any other questions? Yes. It's called jelly printing. So I actually took, it's like a, oh gosh, what do you call it? It's like a clear jelly thing that you put paint on, then you put ferns or whatever materials that you want, and then you put a piece of paper down and it creates different things. So, and you don't really know what's going to come out of it, so that's what I did, and I took a bunch of them and cut them, and yeah, that's how I made it. Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank the Hub and Bill Lucci for assisting and helping us host the AP show and Orientates for catering. I'd like to conclude this opening of the art show by thanking teachers, friends, and families for supporting our artistic endeavors this year. This now concludes our Artist Talk, Connected Evolution. Thank you all.